And Pope Paul VI, he was the first to explicitly ban them in his 1968 Address of Human Life. This despite the fact that a committee had previously advised against the ban. But first, is the Pope wrong on condoms? Bit risky, isn't it, Matthew? Questioning God's representative on earth, the leader of the world's 1.13 billion Catholics? But we shall see. Speaking to journalists on his first trip to Africa, Pope Benedict XVI said, and I quote, that AIDS was a tragedy that cannot be overcome by money, that cannot be overcome through the distribution of condoms, which even aggravates the problems. He went on to say celibacy and monogamy were the answer. And I do wonder, though, what the 27 million people in Africa who have the HIV virus would say about that. AIDS campaigners were certainly outraged, and this morning it's been claimed the Vatican has even rewritten the pontiff's speech, softening his hard line by saying condoms only risked aggravating the problem. So is the Pope right or wrong here? Is the infallible one possibly fallible? The World Health Organization reckons using condoms reduces the risk of HIV infection by 90%. But hey, what do they know? How can we square the Pope's view with that of Cardinal Cormac Murphy O'Connor, the Archbishop of Westminster, the highest Catholic in England and Wales, who said that an HIV-infected person should use a condom to protect their partner? I'm beginning to wonder if there's a problem with the Pope's moral compass. Going to be some complaints coming in there. I'm off to hell, I suppose. But earlier this year...
You're really nervous, aren't you?
Well, because people will complain, and I'm trying to be balanced. But earlier this year, he forgave a guy called Bishop Richard Williamson for claiming there were no gas chambers in Nazi Germany and that 6 million people didn't die at the Nazis' hands. And yet his hard line on condoms could see millions more die a horrible death, and that cannot be right, can it? Can we be sure Jesus would have opposed condoms? After all, he never said a word about them, as far as we know, and they've been around for, what, 1,000 years by then? David.
Well, you can imagine I'm absolutely furious and incensed by
But it's nothing new. I mean, this has been going on for 45 years.
But I really, really hope that with the new Pope that we'd have a new spirit of enlightenment. And you have to look at the 27 million people who are positive in Africa. I've recently just done a documentary here where we've shown that 1 in 7 gay men in Brighton has HIV. In London, it's 1 in 8. And, in fact, I was just talking to someone... Huge problems. And what really angers me about this is having nursed and looked after people who've died in their 20s of this. This is an entirely preventable disease. And we spend, for every person...
Preventable by celibacy and monogamy?
Yes, of course. But that's not human nature, is it? So condoms, we know, are the most effective way of preventing the spread of this fatal virus. And for everyone who becomes positive, will cost the state about £250,000 in treatment. It's essential that we actually make sure people protect themselves. And I therefore find, you know, the Pope's comments, I'm very saddened by them, because, of course, we should be teaching relationships.
By the fact that the Vatican has perhaps rewritten his words to soften the line?
They know they're very out of line with the rest of world opinion.
Okay. What's interesting here, though, is the way that we see the Catholic Church. I mean, you're a Catholic, Matthew, so you're going to see it differently from me. I'm not a member of any organised religion. I see them as clubs. You know, no different from political parties, no different from any other clubs. They're a club that, you know, they gather together people, they have a set of beliefs, and they espouse these beliefs. And the Pope, you know, to a certain extent, following my argument, has got every right to hold these beliefs because he's the leader of this club. Unfortunately, we know that he has a massive influence, particularly over Africa, where Catholicism is the biggest growing religion. But I think we have to stop giving this organised religion the credibility and the automatic authority that we do. He's a guy who's got a certain set of views. They do not stack up with medical opinion. You know, I'm not saying to dismiss them, and I'm not trying to insult all Catholics, but let's see them for what they are.
I think you make a very good point there, because if we go back into the Middle Ages, the papacy was a political appointment. You know, it was the wealthy families in Italy. I suppose if you want to equate it with modern day, it was the mafia, if you like.
My point about Innocent VIII and the Malleus Maleficarum was, I mean, this was a book that literally said how to identify witches. A person in your village is a witch if you thought they were a witch for a long time. I mean, that was the logic that led to 100,000 plus women dying.
But it's the way that you said it. You know, Jesus didn't say anything about condoms. A lot of people in this world don't believe in Jesus. They don't think Jesus ever existed.
But Catholics do. Catholics
Yes,
do. And it's the Catholics that count here.
But then the Pope has to accept that he is a member of a club that not everyone else is a member of, and that he should not impose his will.
You misunderstand, because the Catholic is the one true faith. That's what part of the credo.
In their opinion.
Yeah, of course. But that is, if you're the leader of the one true faith with a direct line to God, that is what you are. You can't.
Yeah, but he also has to take a responsibility in the broader world that by pushing his one true faith, he might be causing the deaths of millions of people. You have to take responsibility for that.
Peter, sorry.
Well, then I was just thinking that the whole point of his statements that a condom, I mean, you say that he's changing, the speech is being rewritten, and the words are softening it. But to say that that is the cause, which was what was said originally, is just preposterous. And to say that abstinence is the only solution. It is a solution, but it's never going to happen. And because it's never going to happen, you have to go into the real world. He's not in the real world.
Well, history has shown us that abstinence and celibacy is not effective as a combatant to AIDS. So, I mean, the facts are there in that, aren't they?
OK.
Was it 27 million?
27 million have the HIV virus in Africa. Many, many more around the world. It's about 2/3 of the world's HIV infections are in Africa, sub-Saharan.
And the fastest growing group is heterosexual women who are becoming HIV positive.
Listen,
in Britain.
Let's throw it open. The panel seem to be unified on this. You don't need to know my view. Let's throw it open to you, Amy.
OK, let's start with Gilly first on line 1.
Morning, Gilly.
Good morning, Matthew.
So what are your thoughts then on the Pope and condoms?
Well, I agree with everything that the panel said. I mean, the Pope isn't just wrong. I think he's absolutely criminal. I mean, the HIV and AIDS is very serious. It's spreading terribly in Africa, killing loads of people. Overpopulation will end up destroying the world itself because of all the pollution and the rest of it, the trouble that it brings. I think it's about time that we stop listening to these religious people. I mean, what they're doing is spreading a message that's nothing to do with love. It's more to do with death. And quite frankly, I think it's about time people stop believing in this ridiculous superstition.
OK, I mean, they would say that they're actually spreading a message of love, that if you truly loved your fellow man, that you wouldn't pursue sort of sexual intercourse with a variety of partners, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's...
I don't know if it's a message of love or death, but it's a message of control.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, and that's
but
the
religion,
worrying thing.
probably with the
It's about
exception of the
control.
Buddhists, that's pretty much how religion works, isn't it? Gilly, thank you. Let's have another.
OK, let's go to Greg then on line 2.
Greg, good morning.
Yes, good morning. I'm kind of going to play a little devil's advocate for the Pope, because I believe you can't really knock the guy because he believes in something that, you know, that a lot of Christians believe, you know, one partner, wait till you get married.
Yeah.
But the thing about him is he's kind of wrong now. He does need to come into the 21st century with it, because AIDS is killing a lot of young people. AIDS are killing, you know, a lot of people in Africa, and he sees that going on. He really do. And
the thing is, Greg, the thing is, again, the point about the Pope Innocent VIII and the Malleus Maleficarum is I just wanted to show that it has not been, you know, popes have got things wrong before. So it is not beyond the realms of possibility. You know, if Jesus Christ said don't use condoms, then we wouldn't have the argument, because that would be, you know, absolute central to the faith. But the fact is it came later. So, yeah. Thank you, Greg. Let's have another.
OK, let's go to Anne-Marie then on line 4.
Anne-Marie, good morning.
Good morning, Matthew. Matthew, my husband died in 1996 of AIDS, and I'm HIV positive.
Right.
And we lived in Africa. And you made a comment about multiple partners, but we didn't have multiple partners. I had sex with my husband, who happened to have a partner at some time between his first marriage and me. And he became infected, and because of who we were, we never thought to use condoms. Condoms are the only way to protect oneself. I talk at schools all over the UK now about this issue, and I'm absolutely incensed. I'm a Catholic. I'm so angry about this issue.
How do you square, Anne-Marie, how do you square your belief and the primacy of the pontiff, God's representative on earth, how do you square that with your leader, your spiritual leader, saying something you totally disagree with?
I'm sorry, but I think my spiritual leader is wrong in this case, and it's not the first time that the Catholic Church has been wrong. We're talking about mortal people, and I don't believe the Pope is infallible. So there you go, that's my answer.
Anne-Marie, I can't imagine anyone that can argue with a point of view like yours that you put through. I don't know whether to do the audience. Let's have a word with our audience, please. Thank you, Anne-Marie.
OK, well, this is Sasha. So, Sasha, is the Pope wrong on condoms?
Yeah, just completely, because it's just not practical to say to people, stop having sex and you'll be fine. and he knows that, and so
George W. Bush was quite a big fan of that theory. He pledged millions and millions of pounds, or dollars, I should say, to sub-Saharan Africa on the proviso that it wasn't spent on condom projects and it was spent promoting celibacy.
But it's just, this is the real
You're saying
world,
George
and
W.
that's
Bush is
just
wrong
not
as
going to
well?
happen, really. And also the fact is, like, surely the Catholic Church believes in, you know, you have to look after your fellow man. So by saying not using condoms, that for me is just condemning people to death, because people won't stop having sex.
That's right.
It's just a fact.
Our cardinal in this country is saying that if you have HIV, you know, you should wear a condom to protect your partner.
Yeah, precisely.
You know, that seems to, that seems to be the common sense line.
There's another
to me.
interesting statistic there, isn't there? Apparently in Africa, that the Catholic Church looks after a quarter of all AIDS sufferers. So in terms of caring for them and medical, so the influence even there is absolutely immense, isn't it? So you wonder what dialogue goes on there. You know,
I
with
wonder
people...
what their views of the drug companies that have many retroviral drugs that could treat and help people with HIV that many sufferers in sub-Saharan Africa can't afford. I wonder how the Lord would feel about that.
Well, also with George Bush's point, which is that actually if they put all that money into R&D, that we'd actually be in a better position in terms of antiretrovirals. And if we'd spent money on that instead of going to war, that would have been a much better thing to do.